Hello, Brad here. This is a demonstration of an application that I created for a company that I worked at previously. Um, it's a Python-based media tracking and ingestion database system. Basically, the problem that we were trying to solve was this company had thousands of pieces of media, millions of frames of media, and hundreds of terabytes of shows that we store and distribute and encode for customers. What we really needed was a way to find where media is and whether it exists and what formats we have it in and all kinds of information about that media very quickly. Ideally, like if a salesperson is on the phone with a customer, they need to be able to find the information that they need live. So yeah, speed is really important. We were mostly doing production work, visual effects and animation, and tracking all this media was just sort of like something we had to squeeze in. So because of that, we needed something that just took, it was as little effort as possible, as few clicks to ingest media or find media. We needed to be able to move media around, like lots of terabytes each day, and do that in a very safe way and a queued way that could run in the background, not tied to FileMaker or any other application. And we needed to be smart. We needed a way to ensure data consistency and integrity and error checking and things like that when people are entering in information. We wanted to be able to automatically gather information about the media so that the archivist doesn't have to manually enter in all that stuff. And this application called MediaPi is what I came up with. Now, this is built in Python and uses Qt and for the GUI, and uses MongoDB on the back end. So the way it works is you've got three main windows, and each of these windows are designed to be used in a particular order, and they act like filters. So the window on the left here, this is just a big old list of all of the show titles that are in the database. And if I click on any one of those, you'll see on the versions window, which is here, a filtered view of what versions of that show we have. So like if I select astronaut, you can see we've got the full show in 3D, the trailer, long trailer, short trailer in 3D. So this just lists all of the major versions of that title that we have. And then below that is the actual spreadsheet view of where all these things are and all kinds of information about them. These columns are resizable. And there's actually quite a bit more than what you see here, but I've hidden all that by default. It's easy to show all that just by clicking the unhide button. Then you get the full list of information there. But generally, that's not stuff that you need to see, so I keep it hidden. So in the versions window, if I just want to see like the full show 3D, I can click that, and it further filters that list. And you can see that there's only one full show 3D that we have, and it's this Dome Masters format. There's also a search bar here where you could search for any keywords from any of these fields. So if you wanted to find, for instance, astronaut Spanish to see if we had a Spanish language version, you could do that. So yeah, that's that. If you need to edit any of this data, say you do find a mistake, you can select it, right click and say edit and ingest. And this will open up a window where you can change any of the information in here, and there's integrity checking and things like that. That window is the same as if you were to say new, except that the window's not populated. So this is how you would ingest new media. If we got a new show from a producer, this is what we would do, and you just start typing the show title, say, as I start typing it, you can see it filters a list of existing titles. That way, if I'm just getting a new version, say a trailer for a show that's already been ingested, I won't misname it because I can just select it from this list. Other cool things are if you start by browsing to the media that you want to ingest by clicking this browse button and then pointing it to either a frame or an MP4 or whatever the format is, it will gather as much information about that media as possible and populate these fields with it. So by doing that, it'll automatically find the file name, the file size, frame count, things like that. It can't find everything. It won't know the format or subformat or language because that, especially for like frame sequences, there's no metadata that contains that. So that's how new media gets ingested. And if you were an encoder and you needed to locate media quickly, say I needed to make a new version of this astronaut full show 3D, I just find it in the database, right click and say Open Explorer here, and that will take me to where the ingested media actually lives on the network. Just open up a folder window to that. So very quick and very easy to get to media. There's a whole like folder structure that it uses that's actually human readable. So if for some reason something were to happen to this this application, you'd still be able to locate the media. It's very easy to find that due to good folder structure. So yeah, that's MediaPi. There's some other features in here. You can do bulk editing by clicking Enable Editing, and then you can type directly into the spreadsheet view. This is not enabled for all users. A user has to have a certain privilege level to be able to do mass edits. And oh, right, when you're ingesting media, it launches a separate copy process that also creates like MD5 checksums. So it compares the checksums before copying and after copying to ensure that the copy happened successfully with no data corruption. That's surprisingly frequent. What else? Oh, yeah, that copy process also queues up in the background. So you can queue up multiple copies if you get in a bunch of shows at once. You don't have to wait for it to copy, because if you're talking like a lot of tens of terabytes data, that's going to be pretty slow even on a really fast network. So what happens is you can just go ahead and queue those up and they'll just automatically run in the background. I was planning on in the future adding the ability to very easily encode a show. So here you see an encode tab. Now this is not on the actual version that people were using, but on my development version here, I have this encode tab. So you could select something from the database that you want to encode, say this show. You could click encode over here, or I was going to add right-click functionality to just directly launch an encode, and that would populate these fields, and you just have to tell it what kind of encode you're trying to do. And once you've got that set up, you could just click encode, and it would send it over to the queue and queue up that encode. And ideally, that would happen on a render farm, so the encoding wouldn't even necessarily have to happen on the user's machine. It could happen anywhere on the network. So again, that's how that works. There was a little bit of resistance to using it at first, but I consulted with everybody and got everybody's opinion and was constantly like saying, hey, check this out. Joe, what do you think of this? And it turned out to be very easy to get buy-in. And once people started using it, they were in love with it. So worked out great. And I learned a lot making it. This is probably the biggest Python application that I had made up to that point. So that's MediaPi. Thank you.